Welcome back. Joining the show now is North Central Sports Information Director, Clark Teuscher. Clark, as always, thanks for stopping by.
Thanks. Good to be back.
So another spring sports season is underway, and the men's baseball team comes back home and gets 2 wins against Beloit College in the home opener.
In really exciting fashion, trailing in both games going into the 9th, and they were able to put together rallies in both games against a Beloit team that really had a strong starting pitching staff.
And so this is the 5th season in a row the Cardinals have won their home opener and are now 10-11 in March home games. What's that say about how well they play at Zimmerman Stadium?
They've been very good there the last couple of years, regardless of when the games have been played. But they definitely are happy to come home after a long trip like that and be able to sleep in their own bed and just kind of wake up and go to the ballpark. So certainly everybody's tougher at home, and they've been tougher than most the last couple of seasons.
Last year the Cardinals finished 22-17 with a 13-8 record in CCIW play. They made it to the tournament. Are expectations the same for the Cardinals, or has the bar been raised a little bit?
I think they would like to get back to the point where they're contending for a conference regular season championship. They've had a bit of a problem the last couple of years keeping the pitching staff healthy. To this point, they've all been able to stay healthy at least through the early part of the season, which is a plus as far as that's concerned. They've got several components that they can put into the lineup, different positions, based on who's hitting well and who's not, so they don't have to depend on any 1 or 2 people to get their offense. So I think the expectations are a little higher, and they'd like to see themselves get back up to the top of the conference standings.
Yeah, it's nice to always have that depth on a team, but who are some of the key players that the Cardinals have lost, but who are some of the ones that have stepped in and to replace them?
Well, the pitching staff did need some additional help in terms of rebuilding it, and there's a gentleman named Chris Singh from Waubonsie Valley High School. He's a transfer from Valparaiso University that has developed into the #1 starter. He's a left-hander. He's hasn't given up an earned run in his last 2 starts, so certainly doing very well there. We have a freshman named Ben Cruzen who's worked his way into the conference pitching rotation. He's also one of our catchers, which is kind of an odd combination, trying to work out when he's going to pitch and when he's going to catch. But it's certainly a nice option to have there. And Sam Carius, who is also a transfer from Valparaiso and a Waubonsie Valley grad, has been dealing with a bit of an arm injury lately, but certainly in the early part of the season displayed that he was a guy who was going to be a top-of-the-order hitter for the Cardinals this season. That's
got to be interesting, being a pitcher and a catcher. Do you think that gives him some sort of advantage on the mound?
He's certainly got a strong arm, and you have to be that to have play either one of those positions, and he's played them both quite well. It's tough to say whether they're going to try to come to a decision on which one to focus on in the future, but for right now, it's worked out well enough that he's been able to take some heat off of Zach Pakanowski in the catcher position, as well as help us out in the pitching staff. So it's a good way to keep him in the lineup a lot. It's just going to take some planning by the coaching staff to make sure that the way that they do that is the best for him.
And who are some of the teams in the conference that the Cardinals should be looking out for?
Illinois Wesleyan is always a top team in the conference. They hosted the conference tournament last season. Carthage won the conference tournament last year and advanced to the NCAA tournament. They've got a strong program. They've got a coaching staff that's been there for quite a long time and been able to recruit some really good players. So I think those 2 are probably the top teams. North Park's been able to put together some pretty good teams in the recent years, particularly in terms of their pitching staff. So they'll be in the hunt as well, I think.
And another team that hasn't started their season yet, but it's kind of already started because it carries over from the winter, is the men's track and field team, who we found out today is ranked 4th in the preseason rankings.
And a lot of that's based off of who's coming back from last season, and we do lose Dan Benton from the indoor to the outdoor season because he's out of outdoor eligibility. But I think we do gain John Howard back, who isn't, his performances wouldn't necessarily reflect in those rankings because he didn't compete in the indoor season. So, there's some, you have to kind of take that with a grain of salt there. Those rankings aren't based on anything we've done in the outdoor season yet.
Right.
So once we get a couple more weeks into it and guys have had a chance to compete, I think we'll see a more realistic picture of where we stand in the country.
And I'm sure even though the other teams in the country see a 4 next to the Cardinals, they know they're the team to beat, coming off the successful seasons in the past.
Well, everybody's seen them on the top of the podium the last 2 seasons, so I don't think anybody is really considering themselves a favorite over North Central at this point.
You talked about the team missing Dan Benton, but they have some other people that are able to step in, like you said, John Howard. How does the depth of this team change when you get more guys in the outdoor season?
Well, I think it definitely helps in the distance events because, at the national meet, you only have one individual true distance event, which is the 5,000, and then you add a steeplechase and a 10,000 meters, which have been two very strong events for the team the last 2 or 3 years. Definitely provide some additional opportunities for those distance runners to step in and affect the team score.
Yeah, the Cardinals have had some success in the 5 and 10,000 in years past, doing amazing things on the track in the 5 and 10,000 at nationals.
They've actually won the 10,000 2 years in a row. Kyle Brady was able to win it the year before, and Mike pulled a very difficult double, winning the 5K and the 10K last season, which played a huge role in the Cardinals being able to win the national championship. Dan Curley was an All-American in the 10K last year. Just missed out on going to the 5K indoors, so certainly I'm sure he's motivated to get himself back into a position where he can help the team out at the national championships.
And the outdoor track's probably got to benefit these distance runners because they're not taking those narrow turns so much, whereas in cross country it's more of a straight line running.
I think it helps everybody that you have less severe turns. I think it's going to help the sprinters as well. Certainly, the less pressure and the less, you're not leaning quite as drastically as you are. And then especially in an event like the 400 where North Central is very strong, you're running the whole race in one lane versus cutting in and having to worry about elbows and things like that. So certainly it's a venue that's more suited to the team that we have, and I think we'll be able to see that once the performances start coming in.
Well, Clark, we look forward to a Cardinals having a great season and you keeping us up to date on everything going on. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
The softball team starts their CCIW campaign on April 5th at Schanhauer Field with a doubleheader against Illinois Wesleyan. First pitch set for 3 p.m. I'm Marc Dahlquist. See you here next week on the Cardinal Report.